Just wanted to know from a physicality standpoint. I mean, obviously, everybody always looks at your position and analyzes the speed and the technique. And I'm just curious for you over the years, how much more physical do you think guys don't appreciate you have to be in order to be able to play the complete game that you want to play?
Well, I think, people don't really watch the tape. People watch the highlights. I think it was a video that Von Miller came out and talked about as a pass rusher, and he's a legend, obviously. But he talked about how all the finesse moves and all the pretty stuff, it looks cool. It's on highlights, but most of your sacks actually come off hard work, and most of the time it's either some form of power or some form of like a second effort move. That's why one thing with edge players you see a lot is motor, right? Their motor's high because most of the time sacks don't just come off the first move. They come off of, the second move. And if you're coming off of a second move, it's probably because you had to go some form of power. So for me, not just looking at, the pass rush side of it, but also in the run game, you got to be physical. You got to be strong to set edges and really do your complete job. So I think in my game specifically, power is definitely something I lean on just to make sure that I'm always affecting the quarterback. It may not be a pretty move, but if I can put that tackle on the quarterback's lap, I affected the play.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Bruce back.
Hey, Kayvon.
How you doing, Bruce?
Hey, Kayvon. With Brian, Abdul, and Dexter beside you, do you feel like this will give you an even greater opportunity to wreak havoc?
I think it'll give us all opportunity. This is one of those things where we'll have to see how the cards play out on which way they slide, which way they, chip or things like that. But I definitely think it's going to be a great opportunity for all of us. It's going to be a race to the quarterback. I was laughing with Dex about it. Like, he's already the fastest guy because he's the closest. But now you got even faster guy with Abdul in there. Then you still got Burns on the other side. So we're definitely going to be nail biting to see who gets that sack.
Have you set personal goals yourself, or do you kind of let it unfold as it happens?
No, I always have personal goals. I think I start off with just trying to be the best and trying to break the record. I'm always going for the league record or Strahan's record when it comes to sacks and tackles and things like that. So for me, I also just want to play my best ball, whatever that looks like. So not only the numbers, but having the film to match it. So for me right now, I'm in this part of the season, I'm focused on having the film to match how I want to play.
Thank you, my friend.
Evan Barnes.
Kayvon, how we doing?
Doing great, man.
Good. Brian Burns talked to us recently about how he said last year you kind of flipped the switch and things started to click a little bit more for you. I'm curious if you could take us through that, kind of what changed, and how is that carrying over, you think, into your preparation for this season?
Well, I would say coaching. When you go and you watch, other than that first game where we got blown out, I think if you start with game 2 and go on until I was hurt, I had some great, not only great rushes, but some great run game. And I think when you speak of flipping a switch, good players only become great, quote unquote, when they have good coaching. It's not a lot of times you see players succeed without, good coaches around them. So we definitely, Charlie Bullen has been, a great asset to me and, the rest of the guys in the room, and continuing to kind of grow, not just grow my ability on the field, but know what weight I want to play at, know what, size, know what side of the ball I like, and just figuring out what works for me and kind of just honing in on it, using it as my strength.
And kind of, if you can elaborate more, like what are some specific things that Charlie's kind of taught that you really think you've really latched onto that's kind of like helped you grow personally?
I don't think it's necessarily a certain technique, but I think it's the consistency of greatness. It's understanding that, yeah, it, but let's just go over it 3 more times. I think it's that 10,000 hour mindset.
Thanks.
Patty Traina.
Hey, Kayvon, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Thanks for doing this. Kayvon, just to piggyback off the goal-setting thing, do you ever find that by setting goals, and obviously you have high expectations for yourself, but do you ever find that, it maybe puts a little too much pressure on yourself as opposed to letting things develop organically? And if so, how do you kind of manage the balance?
Well, for me, I kind of look at the opposite. I feel like if you don't have any goals, you don't have any direction. If you don't have any things set out for what you want to do, it's hard to figure out what, you're going to do. So for me, I like to set the goals so that I can at least set a standard and say, am I playing to my standard? And that's why I've added to not only just having the goals be the goals, but then also having the film to back it up, right? Because you may not get, 22 sacks. You may not get 100 and something tackles. But if you do get, you fall somewhere in between that, and then you have the film and the hard work and everything to back that up, then, you can be considered, still a top player.
How much do you collaborate with the coaches and say, hey, this year I want to accomplish A, B, C, and D? And then how much feedback do they give you as opposed to, well, we're going to use you this way, and maybe we refocus what you're aiming for?
Well, I think when it comes to scheme and situation, you got to play the scheme that's best fit for the team. So when it comes to my goals are based on my role on the team. So not necessarily saying that coaches, change the scheme to help fit certain players' goals, but once, I've been in the scheme for a minute, I understand the scheme, I understand what I'm asked to do. So within that, I can see how, I'm able to, succeed, or what I'm able to accomplish within it.
Thank you, Kayvon.
Brian's on Lacey.
Kayvon, thanks for doing this. Whenever I think of Jets-Giants week, I think of that 2022 draft and you and Sauce and Garrett and Evan all being top 10 picks. Could you remind me, Kayvon, I don't even know if we've ever asked you this. Did you think there was a chance you were going to the Jets? Did you always know it was Giants for you? Or did the Jets had that fourth pick and took Sauce? Did you have like a Jets hat near you? Did you think there was a chance you were going there instead of here?
Well, I think, honestly, no, I didn't. I didn't think I was going to go to the Jets. And it's funny, I'm going to share the story. I took when you go on those 30 visits and you do those tests. Man, I was so tired. I was jet lagged, and they had me doing the test, and I just I don't know why I couldn't do the test. It was messing. One of the tests were just messing me up, and I just quit it. And I was like, yeah, they might not take me off that. I'm like, yeah, they might not take me, because I was like, yo, I'm too tired for this. I'm done.
I guess you were pretty confident you'd go to the Giants then after that.
Yeah, nah, it was definitely, you could have, at that time, at that part of the draft and that timing, I didn't really know where I was going to go. It was in between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to all the way down to 8. So it was like, me, I was just grateful for wherever I went.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is what you saw out of Justin Fields this week. Obviously, New York, playing against him these 2 days and, maybe on Saturday. What you saw, he's a guy who's trying to revitalize his career in this city. What did you see out of him going against him these last 2 days?
Man, it's tough for quarterbacks right now, especially in practice, especially for us. Like we got guys like me, me, Burns, Dex, Chauncey, Nacho. Like he was under a little bit of pressure, so I can't really give you a full analysis on what I think of him as a quarterback, because he did have to run and scramble and do a lot of things. So, yeah, you guys have to probably take a look at that on your own.
Thanks, Kayvon.
We'll take two more. Paul Schwartz.
Hey, Kayvon.
How you doing, Paul?
A couple of things for you. Have you noticed the difference in Brian Burns? I mean, he came to a new team last year. Everybody kind of needs to find their footing. He's talked about just being a little different, more comfortable, more like himself. Have you noticed anything this summer that says, oh, that's different from the guy that I met last summer?
I think, I think Burns is a guy has all the talent. And I think even though he's a big vet at this point in his career, I feel like he has mastered his process. And from what I personally see, I see a big, not really a big change, but I see consistency in his process and how he's going about, just his whole life. So I think that can transcend to the field. And I think he's going to be able to, accomplish everything he wants to, just based on him knowing what he needs to do and doing everything he needs to do, to succeed.
Does his hustle in training camp, roll over to your hustle in training camp? He's not going to out hustle me. This and then the next guy, that kind of thing.
It's always that, right? Just being on the field. Michael Strahan told me when I got drafted, like, it's not about being one of the 11 guys out on the field. It's about being the one out of the 11, you know. So for him, I know he wants to be the best on the field. I want to be the best on the field. Abdul, all the way to Javon, all the way to the corners with, you know, Tay Banks and Adebo. But yeah, it's definitely a competitiveness, but I also think, you know, everybody is fighting their own battle. And for him, you know, the sky's the limit. And for me, I love just kind of feeding off whether it's his talent, his energy, and vice versa.
Thanks, Kayvon.
Last one, Tom Rock.
Kayvon, we talk a lot about Abdul and you know how he's going to make everybody better. I'm wondering if there are any adjustments that you have to make to playing with somebody like him, that his abilities are, I guess, are so unique, and where he can line up and where he can come from, and he sort of improvises a lot on the field. But do you guys have to adjust to him as much as he has to adjust to?
I would say when on an individual standpoint, you know, he fits right into the scheme. Honestly, I think the adjustment comes now that we have a great young player on the team, and that is, like, him being young is probably the only adjustment that not necessarily has to be made with the scheme, but, you know, we got to take more account. Burns got to communicate a little more. You know, Bobby got to communicate a little more. I got to communicate a little more. We got to make sure that he's able to display all of his talents while being, you know, maximized rather than, you know, and I'm not saying rather than, because he's been amazing, but you can see sometimes when you have an all-talented, all-world player, you know, it's tough to almost limit your ability because you have to do what the scheme says, or you have to do, you know, all 11 guys have to work together. So it's finding that fine-tuned balance between, you know, being great and also still doing what the 11 need you to do.
Do you have to figure out when he's going to do those things, when he's going to improvise?
No, I think as he keeps playing, he's getting smarter. Now he's, you know, even from the first 3 practices to the last 3, like, he's been able to gain a lot of understanding about, you know, when to do certain things, when to take the inside, when to go high, when to get, you know, when to use certain moves. Or he's definitely getting smarter. He's buying in. So I don't see it actually being anything. I think it's going to be great, honestly. I think the sky's the limit.